The clinic bustled with the usual rhythm of a Monday morning. Phones rang, keyboards clacked, and soft murmurs drifted through the waiting room like ambient music. Patients sat in neat rows, some scrolling through phones, others glancing up at the television bolted to the wall, muted with subtitles. It was a scene of quiet patience, typical for Dr. Mara's esteemed private clinic, a place known for its discretion, efficiency, and clean white walls. Asha Patel moved with precision through the hallway, clipboard in hand. Her scrubs were neatly pressed, her ID badge clipped high on her chest. 5 years she had worked here. Never late, never reprimanded, always praised for her calm demeanor and gentle touch. She knew the names of regular patients, the quirks of each doctor, and how to read a room before stepping inside. But nothing in her training had prepared her for what was about to happen. As she reached the end of the hall, she spotted him, Mr. Suri. He was parked by the check-in counter in his wheelchair, a man in his late 60s with wispy white hair and too much cologne. He always wore those thick aviator sunglasses indoors, like he was shielding himself from something no one else could see. His legs, paralyzed by an old injury, didn't stop him from being mobile. His wheelchair was electric, top of the line, with custom leather armrests. And that smirk, he wore it like a weapon. She tightened her grip on the clipboard and approached. "Him. Mr. Suri," she said evenly. "Your appointment with Dr. Ellis is in 10 minutes. Let me help you get settled." She reached for the wheelchair handles, but he grabbed her wrist. Not hard, not bruising, but too familiar. "Asha," he purred. "You smell like lavender. My late wife wore lavender." She tried to pull back, but his grip held, fingers wrapping just a moment too long. It was the same game he'd been playing for weeks. Innocent words laced with implication, accidental touches that lingered. She had warned him. Twice. She had even gone to Dr. Mara. "He's harmless," the doctor had said. "Just lonely. We can't alienate patients like him. He has no family, no one to look after him." But now, this moment, this brazen touch in front of a dozen eyes, felt like a line crossed for the final time. Asha yanked her wrist away. "Don't touch me," she said, voice sharp. "Relax, sweetheart," Mr. Suri said, leaning back. "No need to be dramatic." Then, without thinking, without planning, the sting of her palm cracked across his cheek. Gasps rippled through the waiting room like a dropped tray of instruments. A baby started crying. A pen clattered to the floor. And Mr. Suri, hands raised, in performative horror, turned his head slowly as if in shock. The silence was unbearable. Dr. Mara appeared in the hallway like a ghost summoned by tension. His face, chiseled and tight, bore the expression of someone who had seen everything. And yet this was new. "What is going on here?" he demanded. Asha took a breath, trying to explain. "He touched me. Again. I told him." But her voice was drowned by Mr. Suri's feigned distress. "She attacked me. I just asked for help and she hit me. Look at this. Look at my face." Indeed, a faint red outline had begun to bloom on his cheek. Whether it was from her slap or the theatrics of his reaction, it was hard to tell. The entire clinic was watching. Asha looked to Dr. Mara, begging silently for understanding, for the man she respected to give her a chance to explain. Instead, his jaw tightened. "You're done here," he said coldly. "You're fired. Get out, now." The words hit harder than the slap. "You're not even going to ask what happened?" she said, stunned. "I don't need to. You laid hands on a patient in my clinic. That's not acceptable." Mr. Suri nodded smugly from his chair. "No respect left these days," he muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. Security was called. A uniformed guard, someone Asha had shared break room jokes with only days before, stood stiffly by her side. "I'll need you to come with me." There were no formalities, no HR meeting, no review. just stunned stares and whispers trailing behind her as she walked out. In her 5 years of service, Asha had never once raised her voice, let alone her hand. But in 30 seconds, that didn't matter. The story had already been written. Angry nurse hits, disabled patient. As the clinic doors closed behind her, Asha stepped into a downpour that had begun only minutes ago. The sky cried for her when no one else would. Asha sat in her one-bedroom apartment, barely larger than the break room she used to eat lunch in. Rain pounded the windows, and the fluorescent glow of the street lamp outside cast streaks across the walls. Her scrubs, soaked from the walk home, lay crumpled on the floor. She stared at her framed nursing certificate on the wall. The edges of the frame had begun to chip, but she had kept it clean, wiped it every Sunday. It meant something. At least it used to. Her phone buzzed on the table. Priya, reception. I'm so sorry, I saw what happened. I believe you. Jason, lab tech. That wasn't right. Stay strong. Carla, nurse. He's been creepy for months. I'm sorry he got you fired. But there was nothing from Dr. Mara. Nothing from the man she once thought of as a mentor. She had studied his work, admired how he built the clinic from the ground up. He was cold, yes, but fair. Fairness, she thought, was his code until today. She thought about the moment Mr. Suri had grabbed her waist the week before, how his fingers had brushed her side under the excuse of needing help reaching for his blanket. She'd frozen, backed away, shaken and angry. She had told Dr. Mara again. He's old, he'd said. Old people are often confused. Don't escalate things unnecessarily. And she hadn't until today. The slap wasn't a snap of emotion. It was self-defense. But no one saw that. Mr. Suri was treated like a victim. He declined additional medical attention but made sure to request an ice pack, one he dramatically held to his cheek, like he'd been hit with a brick. He gave interviews to a few curious patients in the waiting room. His version of the story changed slightly with each telling, but the theme was the same. The poor, helpless old man assaulted by an angry nurse. Behind closed doors, Dr. Mara was fuming. Not at Suri, but at the mess. Scandal, disruption, reputation. He paced in his office, the blinds shut tight, the hum of the air conditioning barely masking the racing thoughts in his head. He knew the clinic couldn't afford negative press. Not after last quarter's audit. Not with the new investors on board. A nurse hitting a patient? That headline would destroy them. And besides, Suri donated. Not large sums, but regularly. The man was vocal in the community, one of those patients who always shook hands with board members during fundraising drives. The staff were unsettled, but they knew better than to speak out. For now, rain had softened into a drizzle. The city moved on as if nothing had happened. But Asha hadn't slept. She'd been up all night, drafting and redrafting a report. She contacted a local women's advocacy group and filed a formal complaint with the medical board. Then she went one step further. She walked into the nearest police station, eyes red but posture steady. I want to report a sexual harassment incident, she told the officer at the front desk. I have names, I have details, and I think there's footage. The officer looked up. You worked at that big clinic on Jefferson? Yes. And you're saying one of the patients assaulted you? Yes. That got his attention. She sat for an interview, repeating every detail, from the first time Mr. Suri watched her too long, to the moment his hand slid where it didn't belong. She told them about the slap, the firing, the silence that followed. The officer leaned back, thoughtful. Do you think there's security footage? There's a camera in the hallway, and in the waiting room. All right, he said. Let's find out. Dr. Mara arrived precisely at 7:45 a.m. as he always did. Crisp white coat, tie knotted with surgeon-like symmetry, a leather satchel slung over one shoulder. The clinic looked unchanged on the surface, but something was off. There was a buzz. Not the normal pre-shift chatter, but a tense undercurrent. Staff murmured behind corners. Eyes flicked toward him, then away. The front desk girl, new, barely 3 weeks into the job, offered a strained smile and avoided eye contact. Dr. Mara stepped through the glass double doors and into the main hallway, shoes tapping sharply against the polished tiles. That's when he saw them. A TV crew, cameraman, mic operator, and a woman in a navy blue blazer, camera-ready makeup, holding a clipboard and a microphone marked with a local news channel logo. Behind them stood 2 police officers, one of them speaking quietly into a walkie-talkie. He froze, disoriented by the sheer surrealism of it. They were in his clinic, his sanctuary, and with cameras. He tried to turn back into his office, but the reporter spotted him. "Dr. Mahara?" she said, confident, trained. "Dr. Nalin Mahara?" He corrected her automatically, a conditioned reflex. "It's Mara. Just Dr. Mara." She smiled tightly. "Would you like to comment on the sexual harassment allegations made by your former nurse, Asha Patel, against a patient in your care?" The words landed like gunshots. Every syllable hit with surgical precision. His heart lurched. He looked to the receptionist. She'd gone pale. The entire clinic had gone quiet, the same way it had the day before when Asha struck Mr. Suri. He didn't answer. The reporter pressed forward. "Did you know that Ms. Patel had previously reported Mr. Suri's inappropriate behavior? Are you aware that security footage has been requested by the authorities?" "Security footage?" He turned. And there she was. Asha stood near the entrance, flanked by one of the officers and a woman from the advocacy group she'd contacted. Her posture was firm, her expression unreadable. She wasn't there for drama. She wasn't waving signs or screaming for revenge. She was composed, calm, like a nurse ready to handle trauma, and in her hand was a document, a formal complaint. The officer beside her spoke up. "We have reason to believe an incident occurred on these premises involving inappropriate contact from a patient toward a staff member. Ms. Patel has filed a report. We're here to access your hallway CCTV footage." Dr. Mara opened his mouth, but nothing came out. It was the first time in a long while he had no words. They didn't even need the full tape. A tech assistant brought out a company tablet, one of the ones used for reviewing patient logs and hallway recordings. With shaking hands, she found the timestamp, just after 11:03 a.m., the day before. Everyone watched. On screen, Asha walked toward Mr. Suri. She paused, spoke. He reached for her wrist, grinning. Then he leaned in, reaching out again, this time toward her waist. Her body stiffened. She stepped back. His hand followed. The slap was swift, precise, not violent, just final. The room erupted, not with noise, but realization. The truth was there, naked and undeniable. Not a reaction, but a response. Not an attack, but a boundary being enforced. Asha's face on the screen was not furious. It was hurt, betrayed, scared. Dr. Mara stared at it, heart hollow. The TV reporter stepped back, satisfied. The officers moved forward. "Based on this, we're placing Mr. Suri under arrest for sexual assault," the lead officer said calmly. "We'll need to ask him a few questions at the station." It happened quickly. 2 security officers wheeled Mr. Suri out of an exam room where he'd been waiting, smug as ever, holding a cup of coffee. But as soon as he saw the uniforms, his smile faded. "What is this?" he barked. "I'm the victim." "You're under arrest, sir," the officer said. "We have video evidence contradicting your statement. Please don't resist." His cries echoed through the hallway. "This is a mistake. I'm an old man. I need assistance." But there was no act now. No sympathetic eyes. No defenders. Dr. Mara didn't stop them. Couldn't. The staff, his staff, were watching, judgment in their eyes. Some looked disappointed. others ashamed. A few looked directly at him. "She told you," someone whispered. "She warned you," said another. Their voices, tiny and sharp, surrounded him. His face drained of color. News traveled fast. By the afternoon, the clinic's Yelp page was flooded with angry reviews. Words like cover-up, victim-blaming, and unethical swarmed the screen. Staff members who had stayed silent were suddenly emailing HR. Nurses came forward with their own stories, minor things mostly, a patient getting too handsy, a male tech making lewd jokes, a culture of brushing things aside. And now, everyone wanted answers. The board called an emergency meeting. Investors were demanding transparency. The public relations firm they'd quietly retained last year to boost the clinic's visibility now scrambled to contain the damage. Dr. Mara sat in his office, blinds drawn, the world roaring outside. He hadn't eaten, hadn't even moved in hours. The CCTV footage replayed in his mind like a cruel loop. "She told you. Don't overthink it." He heard his own words in his head and hated them. He wasn't a villain. At least he didn't think he was. He'd built this clinic from a broken-down urgent care center into one of the best-reviewed private practices in the city. But in the pursuit of reputation, he had ignored what mattered. Now it was all collapsing. It was almost closing time when the knock came. Dr. Mara looked up from his desk, expecting a staff member, maybe a board member, come to pressure him again. It was Asha. She stepped into his office not as a victim but as something stronger. She wasn't there to rub it in. She wasn't there to negotiate a return. She was there because she deserved to be. "I'm not here for revenge," she said simply. "I just needed you to hear it." Dr. Mara's throat tightened. "I failed you," he whispered. "No," she said gently. "You failed yourself." She didn't yell. She didn't throw blame like stones, but her words hit harder than any fury. "This place used to stand for healing," she continued. "You taught us that. You told us patients came here because they were safe." Dr. Mara looked down. Asha continued. "Don't let fear or your reputation come before your values. You're not the only one who got hurt in this. But you can choose not to repeat it." He nodded slowly. "What will you do now?" She smiled faintly. "I've already done it." Then she left. No door slam, no dramatic pause, just quiet footsteps and a legacy that she reclaimed. The board met again, this time, with clearer eyes. Policies changed. Mandatory harassment training was enforced for all staff, no exceptions. Anonymous reporting channels were installed with third-party oversight. Cameras were repositioned for better coverage. A new protocol for addressing patient misconduct was rolled out. Posters went up in staff rooms and hallways. The clinic that once tried to preserve its image now worked to preserve its integrity. Dr. Mara stepped back from operations for 2 weeks, citing personal reassessment. During that time, his administrators reported a quieter workplace, not because people were afraid, but because people felt heard. And as for Asha, she didn't return. Not out of bitterness, but because her time there had ended. She was offered a job across town at a major hospital, higher pay, better hours, a team that reached out to her with support, not silence. They had heard about what happened. They didn't want to sweep it under a rug. On her first day at the new hospital, Asha stood before her new unit, smile soft but proud. Someone handed her a locker key. Another nurse showed her the break room. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. She had taken a slap that echoed through a system built on silence and made it listen. Sometimes justice doesn't roar. Sometimes it walks in, silent and calm, and refuses to be ignored. Not every hero wears a uniform. Some wear scrubs, and when they stand tall, so does the truth. 3 weeks had passed since Asha walked out of the clinic where she once gave everything. The headlines had quieted. The public attention had shifted, as it always did, to newer scandals, newer tragedies. But for Asha, the world had changed, permanently. She started her new position at Mercy Memorial, a mid-sized hospital on the west side of the city. At first she was apprehensive. The trauma of being cast aside lingered, whispering doubt into her every step. Would they listen here? Would they protect her if something happened again? But from day one, something felt different. Her supervisor, an older woman named Darlene, with silver-streaked curls and a motherly presence, welcomed her with no pretense. "I read about what happened," she said on Asha's first day. "And let me just say, we've needed someone like you for a long time. We don't bury problems here. We deal with them." The team was diverse. Younger nurses mixed with veterans, male and female, all sharing the same unspoken bond forged by long shifts, emergencies, and quiet resilience. They didn't treat Asha like a scandal survivor. They treated her like a nurse, a professional, an equal. On her third day, a male patient made an inappropriate comment during vitals. She froze, but before she could speak, her colleague, Mark, stepped in. "Sir, we don't talk to our staff like that," he said firmly. "You can either be respectful, or you can find another facility." Later, Asha thanked him. "You shouldn't have to fight every time," he said simply. "You're not alone here." And for the first time in a long time, she believed it. The clinic incident didn't disappear completely. It became a case study. A local nonprofit focused on workplace rights hosted a panel titled "Silent No More: Speaking Truth in Healthcare." Asha was invited to attend, not as a victim, but as a speaker. She stood before a modest crowd: nurses, medical students, social workers, administrators. Her voice was steady as she recounted what had happened. "I was told not to overthink it, that it was harmless. But when harm is dismissed long enough, it becomes normalized. And when we normalize it, we lose our humanity, one silent moment at a time." Afterward, a nurse from another clinic approached her with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "I thought I was the only one." Social media picked it up again, not as gossip, but as a movement. The hashtag #StandWithAsha trended. For 2 days. A small victory maybe, but in an industry that often demanded silence, it was thunder. Several local clinics, including Dr. Mara's, formally adopted harassment training. An emergency bill was proposed by the city council mandating third-party investigations for harassment claims in private medical practices. Asha didn't seek fame, but her truth lit a torch others could finally see. Meanwhile, back at the clinic, Dr. Mara wasn't the same man. He sat in his glass office, not with pride, but with humility. The walls, once covered in framed accolades and patient thank you cards, now felt like reminders of misplaced trust. One night he stayed late, reviewing incident reports from the past 5 years. He saw a pattern: small complaints, mostly from junior staff, inappropriate comments, uneasy glances, remarks that were not serious enough to escalate. He had dismissed them, not with malice, but with convenience. But Asha's case had shattered that comfort. He called a staff-wide meeting. No PR firm, no board script, just him. "I let you down," he said plainly. "And I let myself forget why we built this place. We're supposed to care for people. That includes each of you." The room was silent. But the silence wasn't hostile. It was listening. "I was afraid of losing our reputation," he continued. "But we already lost it the moment we stopped protecting each other." He ended the meeting with a promise. A new internal advocacy team, composed of rotating staff members, would have real power to flag incidents, escalate concerns, and audit leadership. It wouldn't undo what happened to Asha, but it was a beginning. The justice system moved slowly, but deliberately. Mr. Suri's arrest had made waves, especially as more details emerged. His prior history, once sealed due to age and insufficient evidence, was reopened. 2 other women came forward. Both had worked at a rehabilitation center he frequented years ago. Both described similar behavior. The DA's office decided to move forward with formal charges: sexual battery, repeat offender, and harassment with intent. His court appearance was brief but humiliating. Gone was the smug grin. The man in the wheelchair seemed smaller, his defiance replaced with shame. When the prosecutor read the CCTV transcript aloud in court, describing his touch, her flinch, and his leering smile, the courtroom was still. Asha did not attend the trial. She didn't need to. She had already moved on. But when she got the call from the victim liaison saying he had been sentenced to 6 months in county jail and registered as a misdemeanor offender, she exhaled. It wasn't a life sentence, but it was accountability. A year later, Asha sat on a hospital rooftop during her break. The city stretched before her, glittering under a blue dusk. Rain was coming again. She could smell it in the air. But it didn't bring sorrow this time. Her phone buzzed, a message from her new supervisor. "Hey Asha, new policy draft came in. Want to lead the committee to review it?" She smiled. "Absolutely." Behind her, laughter rose from the break room. A birthday cake was being cut. Somewhere down in ER, a patient was being stabilized. Life went on. But in its rhythm, one note had changed. She wasn't just a nurse anymore. She was a symbol, quiet but firm. The kind of change that didn't yell but couldn't be ignored. Later that week, a young nurse in her 20s stopped her in the hallway. Nervous, clutching a clipboard. "Ms. Patel," she said, "can I ask, how did you do it? How did you not give up?" Asha paused, hand on the doorknob. "I did give up," she said honestly. "For a little while. But then I remembered, silence doesn't protect us. It only protects them." The nurse nodded slowly. "Thank you," she said, and Asha smiled. Not the smile of someone who won a battle, but someone who knew her fight meant others wouldn't have to. Sometimes justice doesn't roar. It walks in quietly, stands its ground, and lets truth speak for itself. If this story moved you, tell us where you're watching from. Drop a karma in the comments and hit that like button. And remember, never let fear silence the truth.